Pretty good scientific spot in the southeast. I'd go in at 30 for that at least. No.
What an excellent location for a lab. Well done on finding it. Now then, the day is ticking, and there is much research to be done.
Yep, well, that's a good spot. Basically, I guess the criticism is that you should have just waited. If you thought that spot was okay, you could tell that the other spot was pretty good too, so just wait a little longer. The one thing this spot did have, the other spot did not, is silicon.
The black market is online.
Can you, Death has just said that you're muted.
Alright. There we go. That's really unfortunate, but you know what? We've been going at it for 4 hours. 4 hours now, so...
I don't know if they could hear me. You know, looking at Gameslayer's spot, I think he made a mistake. He should have founded one tile to the southwest.
Right.
Because then he knew he was going to claim that aluminum anyway, and then he would have access to a water triangle, and he could have gotten a steel triangle.
Yeah, that might have been a bit better. I agree with you there. So, to recap quickly, we're not sure about Cubit founding that early. Gameslayer could have found it a little bit better. Silicon is what Cubit has an advantage in, but maybe not as much of an advantage as he would like. And now I'm unmuted, and that's going to be, well, whatever. Now I'm upset, but it's fine. Just power through.
It is a good scavenger spot.
It is. Sure. It is.
Like that's a good spot.
It's a really good scientist spot too. That's the trick. All right.
Well, the Achilles heel for it is silicon, because I put him in the southeast corner of my map, and I still don't see any silicon. It's a long way away.
Yeah, that is the trick. I mean, silicon, it's useful, but I still just don't see a huge need for it this game. All you really need from it is the glass.
Yeah, he should just keep it simple. Just claim the high silicon, ship the high silicon, don't get fancy. You'll be okay. It's the only thing you're shipping, it's not a big deal.
Alright, quick little freeze onto the farms. I can get behind that. Gameslayer has committed a lot of resources to the black market early, though. In particular, defending this aluminum tile with a goon squad is something I find questionable. That was $3,000 that he spent on that. $3,000 that he could have to upgrade basically right now.
Yep.
If he wanted to.
Notice do you see the reactors on aluminum?
Yeah, that is interesting. There are pirates this game, so that's not only interesting, that's dangerous.
Yeah. I mean,
It is reactors. It's not like it's farms, right? Farms are extremely dangerous. Reactors, not the worst, but not great either most of the time.
I would just put solar panels on that if you want to get out of the aluminum.
Yeah, I think solar panels probably would have made... they would have been safer. But since when is Cubit a particularly safe player? Let's be honest. He likes to be aggressive. If he thinks he can min-max something out, he'll do it, even if there's a little bit more risk involved. Now, this is something I was not expecting, which is Gameslayer going after some wind turbines. Wasn't ready for that, personally. It's just...
I think you were just gone for that geo. I mean, it's so close.
Or just some solar panels. I mean, silicon's not that expensive yet. You can go ahead and fit that in there right now if you'd like to. He's even going to take this, which I think if he's going to do that, it's time to, like... He's not even going to...
He can still get those claims back.
He could. He can't now, though.
No.
I mean, so he's going to have an excess of power, which I guess is okay. Still having that much of an excess of power, almost 4 power is what he's going to be at once all is said and done. And Cubit's still sitting on, I believe, a sum total of 0 power production. So, not he'll have to push to HQ level 4, and it has to be noted that he's already in C levels of debt once again. Just that early found, combined with not having this fuel, not having this oxygen. He's going ahead and sending some now, actually.
Think of the difference it makes if those reactors were solar panels instead of reactors.
Well, Cubit probably wouldn't be HQ level 4 already. I'll give him that.
Well, that's fair
And he is going to use that to push into the couple of wind turbines. This is kind of what I expected to see out of Cubit in terms of power, was just wind turbines right there. It should be enough power pretty easily to cover his costs. Going to be 1.5 from one of them. That'll cover basically all of his costs on its own. And then the other will just be a nice little excess of 1.2. So not as much as Gameslayer, but enough that it should save him from his debt for the time being. Gameslayer still stuck back on HQ level 3, hasn't managed to push to 4 just yet. That glass is pretty expensive, and he's relying on the relatively cheap food to push to it. So, not great stuff. There we go. Gameslayer goes ahead and manages to get there. I expect to see some reactors down very, very quickly. Possibly some pirates onto Cubit's reactor resources. Of course, if that happens, then Cubit likely just transitions back into aluminum. Always things you gotta consider. I would recommend that Gameslayer actually does something with his tiles, however. Sitting on 4 claims, not really the best of options. There you go. Gonna get some reactors down now. Cubit actually got back out of power with those wind turbines. He's just sitting on this geotherm, which isn't quite covering costs. There it goes.
Pirates.
Just,
I hate those filthy bastards.
yeah, depending on exactly what's active at any given moment. Geothermal will barely hold on for him. Pirates do come down. We see the aluminum transition as discussed earlier. It's just pure luck how much this manages to steal at this point. Man, could even just turn that into solar panels if you wanted to, but the power has fallen off pretty rapidly, so not a big surprise we won't see that.
We'd want to push this auction quite a bit. I mean,
Yeah.
I
That seems like a reasonable spot for it to end, to me.
He either gets it or puts Cubit in a very bad spot.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you let it go for 16, that's fine. Cubit's basically assured D. And sticking there for a while at that point. You get it for 14, well, that's okay. Power's kind of fallen off, and you're not worried about debt at all. So, I definitely like where that ended.
He's going for medium carbon. I would have rather just gone for dry ice condensers.
Yeah, I agree.
You can repurpose them if you need to. I mean,
The black
seems
market
weird.
is online.
Medium carbon, really not all that great. I mean, dry ice condensers, yeah, they only give 0.5 carbon, and it's only during the day, and they cost a lot of power. But power's not that, I mean, power's really cheap.
Yeah.
And I think having that versatility is the biggest part of it.
Yeah, the dry ice condensers right now are producing more net revenue than the medium quarry.
Yeah, just because oxygen's good, as it turns out.
No, not anymore. What was that giant spike in? Cubit just bought up 500.
Yeah, Cubit bought up a lot of carbon very, very suddenly.
That's interesting.
Trying to get in the way, I imagine, of PB Head's chemical lab, or sorry, Gameslayer's chemical lab's been too many players today. It's also kind of convincing Gameslayer to transition out of food and into dry ice, but that's not really that bad, honestly. That's kind of okay for Gameslayer. He'll be all right with that. Carbon still sitting up at $72. Cubit just holding and holding and holding. I don't know if he's thinking about moving into an Offworld with that. It feels a bit risky to do. Thinking about an upgrade, or if he's really just trying to get Gameslayer to stop making chemicals. Well, crashed out now.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is Gameslayer was able to adapt into the dry ice condensers pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, you know, Cubit just doesn't have control of the carbon market.
Online.
Yeah, absolutely. Cubit's still holding on to that C level of debt. He hasn't been quite knocked down to D ever, like, consistently this game. Just hasn't ended up sticking there, so that's good, but it is still something he's going to have to be watching for the rest of this game at this point. Oh, here comes the glass.
Oh, look, there is a tiny little silicon I missed. That's not super far from Gameslayer's base.
No, that one tile that's hiding behind a cliff.
You almost can't see it.
Oh, man. But at least when you go to put down silicon, it'll be highlighted, so,
Yeah.
you know.
You may not even have noticed it until the line came up.
Pleasure Dome for free. Well, for debt, frankly, Gameslayer can once again push this pretty high. That's about where I would stop if I were Gameslayer. Like, if Cubit wants 14, I say just let him have it, probably.
16.
Gameslayer
Make
disagrees.
you over $100. I would take it.
It does make you a lot of money, yeah.
And power's not going anywhere.
But I love keeping that scavenger down in debt, though. And yeah, $105, probably worth it. It's just all about that balance between the debt level versus the actual value of the Pleasure Dome itself. Tell you what, Cubit has bought up an awful lot of silicon right now, trying to keep Gameslayer's glass furnaces from being effective, and this has just been constant from Cubit throughout this game. But it doesn't feel like it's ever done enough.
Yeah, he put down pirates on the silicon route that Gameslayer has as well, so yeah, he's really paying attention to that right now.
He really wants that to work in his favor, and I think it's a good idea, especially with his own glass kind of frozen right now. He can't do anything with it, but he lets go, and is likely going to be moving into this food shortage with that money. Where you going, Cubit? What you up to? Yep, transitions into food, buys up a whole lot of it. Kind of what I expected to see. This will, once again, this will work out well for Cubit, but that interest rate has come down, and he's back in that D level of debt.
I hate those.
No more black market for him.
Yeah,
Another
15. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying another thing I would like to maybe see this game would be a mule. Not seeing a lot of that, and mules are available here. I mean, silicon, that is worth a lot of money.
Yeah, it's true.
Iron is worth a lot of money. And mules are a nice way, especially for that iron hump, right? You don't have to actually commit to changing a tile, adjusting a claim. You just get a bunch of iron, and it's nice.
Yeah, 3,000 mule will get you $20,000 of silicon right now.
You know, it's really, really good in my opinion. Actually, something I've been curious about, does a mule mine faster on a high tile than a low tile?
It does.
I thought so. I just, you know, you don't see the mule very often, and I've never bothered to test it myself, so it's nice to have that confirmed. Well, dry ice condenser's not doing a whole lot right now. Might prefer those as reactors at this stage of the game. But we are instead seeing a transition to electronics factories at a Gameslayer. That's one I'm not really sure about. I mean, silicon is really expensive, and a lot of people just kind of forget that electronic factories take anything that isn't carbon, but when it's this expensive, it can play a real impact in how valuable that building is. I think that's just a straight-up mistake out of Gameslayer.
This is not an auction for drugs. No.
Oh,
these are
wow.
perfectly legal
With an
trade.
Offworld market coming down, an adrenaline boost goes up for auction. That is interesting. This is worth a lot of money to Gameslayer.
14.
It will effectively, if he gets a hold of this, well, on the other hand, he hasn't goon squatted his Offworld, and,
He can, though. I mean, there's no
well,
reason
I mean,
why.
he's got a cooldown of 49 seconds right now.
Yeah. He got it. I feel like he would have gone. He would have bid as much as he needed to get that.
But I don't think he uses it yet, and that's why.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. You can mutiny it back.
Can he?
Well, he's gonna have to wait for the cooldown.
Yeah, that's the trick. I did it again, didn't I? Yes, you did, Gameslayer. Yes, you did. You did do it again. Cubit got his own Offworld going up at this point. And the thing is, like, Cubit's riding that line for D levels of debt. Gameslayer just going for Cubit right now. Alright then. Just says, hey, make you defend yourself. Make it so you don't have the money to fight me in these things. But it's like, yeah, you mutiny it back, then it just gets stolen again, and that's awful.
Well, except Cubit's about to go into D.
He is. I think Gameslayer may need to wait for that interest tick,
Yep.
then try and take it, maybe toss the adrenaline boost, maybe not, probably not.
Well, Cubit is stocked up in mutiny, so that was smart on his part.
Yeah, Cubit's just ready to go. It doesn't even matter at this point. Gameslayer's got to wait basically the full 45 seconds until he can mutiny, goon, adrenaline boost, just instantly. And then he might have a shot.
That's tough. Yeah, I think he's just gonna have to wait out the 2 launches.
Well, he can wait out the 1 launch, maybe.
It's the 1 launch. Fortunately, you never quite get it right.
You can, but you got to be on the ball.
Well, you can actually
You can
queue up the
preload
launch.
it, exactly.
You can preload it, yeah.
It's just nobody ever seems to do that.
Well, that's a pretty huge difference.
Yeah, I mean,
so
1
should-
launch or 2, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, someone should actually figure out whether that math actually works, because I don't know which triggers first, the mutiny or the launch, because I think they'd actually be perfectly synced up. Reloaded.
Well, iron's still worth $100, which would be a nice source of money for Gameslayer if you ever needed it. Farm's not doing so hot right now. Just Cubit has managed to transition out of some of them, but not all of them just yet. Alright, well, that launch is not quite going to finish up. Gameslayer is going to get his Offworld back. Cubit will finish up that launch with his own Offworld in just a moment here.
Oh.
So not the end of the world for him. And actually, it was just like one launch and then another launch back to back.
Yeah,
that could
got
cause
it.
Gameslayer some trouble.
We're not
If he's not ready for this,
Just
that's going to be a
disappointing.
huge problem.
Off-world shipment launch.
Because look at Cubit, 103. It's not quite enough to get the kill now. And Gameslayer could start selling out of stock, moving into his own, but he needs to do that. He needs to go ahead and secure those 5 that he needs to defend himself.
1,000. 16.
Alright.
1,000.
Interesting spot for an upgrade lab.
18,000.
Players are bidding an awful lot on this. If I were Gameslayer, I probably would have let that go for 16. Apparently that would have been the wrong call, though.
We caught the dirty rat trying to break
All right.
our stuff.
Figure this game can't go on that much longer. Now that we've got Offworlds up, but
Yeah, Offworld's online for both players. Water pump's coming down for Gameslayer.
Online.
I'm still really upset about this iron price, but that's fine. It's $104.
Wow.
It's $104. I get that that we're to the stage of the game where the black market cooldowns are really valuable right now, but still.
yeah, I'm surprised GameStar hasn't just dropped down a metal mine. I guess he hasn't noticed.
We caught
Well,
the
steel's
dirty
been
rat
valuable
trying to
too.
break our
You know.
stuff.
Oh. Cubit gets it from Gameslayer and manages to intercept the attempt to take it back with that Goon Squad. I think that's going to lock up this game, quite frankly. Cubit with access to 2 off-world markets. He's just been managing to stockpile those black market resources when he's needed them, and I think he's going to take it.
Stealing that boosted Offworld, that hurts.
Exactly. That is the biggest deal. It's like that boosted off-world that your opponent paid for all the little bits of. Very, very nice to have, indeed. Well, what are we going to see from here? I still think these off-worlds are going to do it, but Gameslayer has managed to get to all 5 of his stock. Cubit's still just a little bit behind in the stock game.
The black market is
Pretty
online.
even in debt, both players in D levels.
The money.
And that's not looking too great. This upgrade lab is working in Cubit's favor on that oxygen production, which is nice. Of course, Gameslayer still has his Pleasure Dome ready to go.
Yeah. I mean,
Off-world shipment
GameSlayer does have the advantage of being
Look at
scientific
all
at this
the
point.
money.
He is making more
Yes.
money from his buildings. Interesting
Yes.
to see him throw in a pat lab.
A little late for that.
Yeah. Is he going to go for...
What's most important to him right now? Is it just going to be straight thinking machines? Or are we going to see financial instruments come into play? I have no idea exactly what he's thinking with this patent lab.
I mean, the patents are going to be expensive. Like, it has to
Yeah.
justify the,
Well,
$10,000.
that's what we're going to see with this patent lab. On the other hand, does Gameslayer care about that much? Having his patent lab stolen from him. Like, that's a very expensive black market item. But Cubit's still managing to maintain control over almost all the most important buildings this game just with these mutinies.
So Cubit's going to get thinking machines. That's
Yep.
fascinating.
Gameslayer could mutiny back in time if he really valued thinking machines that much, and power surges are still available here, of course. As a scientist, you are quite resistant to those, but it's kind of unfortunate that he just gave Cubit the ability to pick that up if he wanted it.
Yeah. It's going to hurt to see him get thinking machines.
Finally,
It's-
Chem Labs come down. Sheesh. Been waiting for those for so long.
The black market is online.
Also worth paying attention to the fact that Cubit has a second off-world coming online now to go along with this thinking machines.
Boy, that stock price couldn't be closer. But Cubit's got pretty big money advantage.
Cubit does have a significant money advantage and has that second off-world, so I still think he's in the dominant position this game by
Yeah.
far.
Yep.
4 seconds left till that off-world comes back online for Gameslayer. probably just going to get shut right back down again before too long. There's still that spy positioned on top of it. And yep, mutiny to back away. More freeze. Onto the chem labs, always nice to see. 3 off-world markets for Cubit.
Yeah. This should be enough. He should be able to finish this up.
Money is evened up right now.
Yeah.
But
Well, he needs 400,000. I mean, we're still a ways away.
yeah,
Trying to figure out if
he's
there's-
spending a lot on these mutinies, but I think they're worth it overall.
Trying to figure out if there's a patent that would give Gameslayer an edge. Carbon's unfortunately not cheap enough. Otherwise, carbon scrubbing would be great. I mean, it's just the game's too late for virtual reality to make much of a difference.
Offworld shipment gone.
Perpetual motion would be not bad.
All the money.
I mean, it's just
Water
very
engine is
late
controlled.
to have that patent lab operational.
Yeah,
He's
none of
going
these
after
things-
carbon scrubbing, but...
None of these things are going to be a difference maker.
Or is that Cubit going after carbon scrubbing? Hold on. No, that's Gameslayer. Never mind.
Look at
Yeah,
all
with
the
the spy, we see everything.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It gets confusing with spies and holograms and all that other good stuff. Alright. Cubit still just launching massive amounts of oxygen into the air, worth so much. Not making as much as I would have liked to see out of him, perhaps. But more than enough to work to get things done. 230 for Cubit, less than 100 for Gameslayer. Carbon scrubbing finishes up with carbon at $1. Don't see that doing a whole lot for him. This Offworld still just mutinied away. Another Offworld coming down for Gameslayer.
Look at all the money.
But quite frankly, the writing is on the wall.
Yep.
Offworld
Needs basically
shipment
2 more
gone.
launches, and that'll be it.
Look at all
I like
the
these
money.
dry ice condensers.
Sure.
I mean, that's a nice idea. But
Offworld shipment
that patent lab, I think, just basically wrapped up the game for Cubit quite nicely.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all it accomplished.
Yeah, that's painful. Good on him for mutinying it. You know, the focus was so much on the off-world markets that
Yeah,
it was smart to make that move.
definitely turned out very
Because
well.
he
for
probably
him.
anticipated that's exactly what Gameslayer wanted it for, was thinking machines.
Yeah.
The black
I'm just
market is
concerned.
on
Like,
fire.
I think this Goon Squad has been sitting here most of the game for Gameslayer. Maybe he replaced it at some point, but maybe the patent lab could have been positioned over there instead of over here. I mean, there were options of, like, slight things Gameslayer could have done better or differently that he just didn't do, and it cost him the game, I think.
Offworld shipment launched. Look
Cubit's
at
got
all
it whenever he wants it. Could just cancel out of launches and take it. Could sell down. But all we need is patience. Gameslayer mostly agreeing with us, saying that he really shouldn't have lost this, but shoulda, coulda, woulda. Game number 4 goes on over to Cubit, and we are headed to the final match, game number 5.
Yeah,
in
well, it's
our
good to
finals.
see.
Yeah.
These are good. These are good matches. We've had a lot of games that could have gone either way. So,
Certainly.
um,
Entertainment revenue, 78,000. That's still significant. But sold off world, I mean, that's the entire tale of this game, right? 123,000 to 856,000.
wow, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a difference. Wow.
Mutinies are good, as it turns out.
I'm surprised the game wasn't over sooner with that.
Well, the thing is, a lot of that was being shoveled into black market purchases. It needed a lot of stock purchasing to be done, right?
Yeah,
I
look
think
at
there
those
was
black
quite a bit of
purchases.
debt to pay down.
Yeah.
Like, look at the interest charges just between the two players. That's part of where it went right there. Even with that auction difference, it's pretty insane. I think the only auction Cubit got that game was the engineering lab. And he only ended up with 6 techs out of it.
Right.
That's still good. It's good to have that, but only 6 is not as many as one might have expected. All right.